There are some movies you watch for entertainment, and there are some movies that quietly hold a mirror in front of relationships, marriages, and human behavior. Deal or No Deal is one of those movies that will frustrate you, stress you, make you angry, and still keep you glued to the screen because of how painfully realistic it feels. From the very first scene, you can already sense emotional exhaustion hanging in the air. Felix is on his knees, begging his wife not to leave him after yet another cheating scandal. And not just random cheating, this man has turned infidelity into a lifestyle. He sleeps with her friends, her workers, people around her, and still expects forgiveness every single time simply because he says, "I'm sorry." Now tell me honestly, how many times can a person keep hearing, "it won't happen again," before those words completely lose meaning? That question becomes the emotional backbone of this movie. What makes Deal or No Deal so gripping is that it doesn't try to paint cheating as one accidental mistake. No, the movie shows repeated betrayal, manipulation, emotional control, and entitlement. Felix genuinely believes he deserves endless forgiveness because he provides financially and keeps saying he loves his wife. But the movie asks a very important question. Can love survive where respect no longer exists? And trust me, this film answers that question brutally. One thing I absolutely loved was how natural and relatable the conversations felt. The arguments didn't sound overly scripted. They sounded like real couples fighting about real issues. The frustration in Vidi's voice felt authentic. You could hear the tiredness of someone who has spent years hoping a person would change. There's one scene where Felix says, "All men cheat." That line irritated me so much because sadly, some people genuinely believe this mindset. The movie boldly challenges that mentality and refuses to normalize it. Instead, it shows the emotional damage that comes from constantly betraying someone who genuinely loves you. And can we talk about Felix's mother for a second? That woman carried this movie on her back emotionally. Prop. Usually in movies like this, parents defend their sons no matter what they do. But Felix's mother held him accountable repeatedly. She called out his foolishness, warned him several times, and even told him directly that love is not just saying, "I love you." Love is loyalty, care, protection, and consideration. Honestly, every scene involving the mother felt important because she represented the voice of truth in the middle of all the chaos. But the movie becomes even deeper when Vidi visits a therapist. That scene completely changed the direction of the story for me. The therapist explains something powerful. Felix was not just cheating for pleasure. By sleeping with everyone around his wife, he was gradually isolating her emotionally. Every friend, worker, or close person around her became someone she could no longer trust. Slowly, her support system was collapsing until the only person left in her emotional world was Felix himself. That conversation hit hard because many people don't realize that betrayal can become psychological warfare. Sometimes it's not just about sex, it's about power, manipulation, and emotional control. At that moment, the movie stopped being just another cheating story. It became something heavier and more thought provoking. And honestly, Vidi's character deserves praise too. She wasn't written as a weak woman. She was written as someone who loved deeply and hoped repeatedly. That's realistic. Many people stay in painful relationships because they remember the good moments, the promises, the apologies, and the hope that things will eventually change. The film doesn't mock her for staying. Instead, it shows how emotionally complicated love can be. Now, let's talk about Felix. I won't lie, this character frustrated me from beginning to end. This man would cry, beg, promise heaven and earth, then repeat the same behavior almost immediately. The most annoying part? He truly believed apologies should erase consequences. There's a dangerous mentality he carried throughout the movie. "I cheated, but did you die?" That line alone tells you everything about his emotional immaturity. He treated loyalty like it was optional, while expecting complete devotion from his wife. The hypocrisy was unbelievable. When he suspected Vidi was talking to another man, suddenly he became possessive, jealous, and angry. Interesting, isn't it? Some people only understand pain when they finally taste it themselves. The irony in this movie is one of its strongest elements. Felix wanted freedom for himself, but control over his wife. He wanted forgiveness without accountability. He wanted loyalty without giving loyalty. And eventually, all those contradictions caught up with him. Now let's discuss Eyosa. At first, I honestly didn't know whether to trust his character. Sometimes in movies like this, the new man turns out to be worse. But surprisingly, Eyosa brought calmness into Vidi's life. Their conversations felt peaceful compared to the emotional chaos she constantly experienced with Felix. One thing I appreciated was that the movie didn't rush their connection into something unrealistic. It developed gradually through conversations, understanding, and emotional safety. And that matters. Sometimes after emotional trauma, what people crave most is peace. Not butterflies, not drama, not grand speeches, just peace. One painful thing this movie portrays very well is emotional exhaustion. You know that stage where someone keeps hurting you until you stop reacting? That dangerous stage where anger disappears and silence replaces it? That's where Vidi eventually arrived emotionally. And if you've ever experienced that kind of emotional fatigue, some scenes in this movie will genuinely touch you deeply. Another thing I appreciated was the realism behind Felix's downfall. Notice something. The moment Vidi stopped covering for him emotionally, everything in his life slowly started collapsing. His business deals failed. His lies became exposed. His manipulations stopped working. His confidence cracked. The movie quietly shows how some people destroy their own blessings through bad character. There's also a very symbolic moment where Felix keeps missing important opportunities because chaos surrounds his life. It's almost like the movie is saying, a person who cannot manage their character will eventually lose valuable things. Now, let me say this honestly. The movie may frustrate me married viewers especially, because some scenes feel too real. The gaslighting, the emotional begging, the repeated apologies, the promises, the manipulation disguised as love. Everything felt believable. And that's why this movie works. It's not perfect, but it's emotionally honest. The pacing was decent, though I feel a few scenes could have been slightly shorter. Some emotional conversations stretched a bit too long. However, the acting carried those scenes effectively enough to keep the audience invested. Speaking of acting, the performances were genuinely strong. The actress who played Vidi delivered emotional scenes beautifully without overacting. You could feel her confusion, pain, anger, disappointment, and eventual emotional detachment. Felix's actor also deserves credit because he successfully made viewers frustrated. And honestly, making audiences angry at your character means you played the role convincingly. But again, Felix's mother, give that woman her flowers immediately. Rose applause. Every time she appeared on screen, she brought balance, wisdom, and emotional truth to the story. One thing I also liked was how the movie addressed accountability. Too often, people say, that's just how men are. Men will always cheat. Just endure. But Deal or No Deal pushes back against that mindset strongly. It reminds viewers that being in love does not mean accepting disrespect forever. And honestly, that final separation scene, powerful. When Vidi finally tells Felix the marriage is over, you can feel years of disappointment in her voice. She wasn't shouting anymore. She wasn't begging anymore. She was emotionally done. And sometimes, silence is scarier than anger. The ending felt bittersweet but realistic. Felix finally realized what he lost only after it was truly gone. Sadly, that happens a lot in real life too. Some people don't appreciate loyalty until they no longer have access to it. Meanwhile, Vidi choosing peace and healing felt satisfying to watch because after everything she endured, she deserved happiness. The movie ultimately teaches several strong lessons. Love without respect cannot survive. Apologies without change become manipulation. Loyalty should never be one-sided. Emotional abuse is not always loud. Some people only value what they lose. And perhaps the biggest lesson: never lose yourself trying to save someone who refuses to change. Overall, Deal or No Deal is an emotional relationship drama filled with betrayal, manipulation, heartbreak, accountability, and self-worth. It's the kind of movie that will spark conversations after watching because everyone will have opinions about the characters. Some people will blame Felix entirely. Some will sympathize with Vidi. Some will debate whether forgiveness has limits. But one thing is certain: this movie leaves an emotional impression. My rating? 8.7 out of 10. Not because it was perfect, but because it felt emotionally real. And honestly, movies that make people talk, reflect, argue, and feel something deeply are usually the most memorable ones. Disclaimer: this review is inspired by scenes from Ruth Kadiri 247 movies for commentary, criticism, and entertainment purposes only. If you enjoyed this review, please support my channel, Flicks and Feels, by subscribing, liking, commenting, and sharing. Your support motivates me to continue creating detailed Nollywood movie reviews and emotional breakdowns like this. Red popcorn. Now, tell me in the comments, do you believe repeated cheating can ever truly stop in a relationship? Or once trust is broken repeatedly, is the relationship